So David, it would be great to start talking about Adalo's roadmap a little bit. I've got to say, internal to Adalo, it's really been an exciting time to just be watching how we've really kind of brought things together. And I feel like right now we're kind of firing on all cylinders. And I think it would be great if you could share with our community what we're kind of doing and what the internal processes look like on Adalo's roadmap.
It has been really exciting to see our transformation. I feel like in the last, let's say, 6 to 9 months. I think we've come up with a lot of great processes that have really kind of helped that. In general, how that stuff works is what we like to do now is have a large commitment. Internally, we call those big rocks. And that's something that's big that we're working on that we know is going to take, a longer amount of time. But we want to stay committed to that. In the past, say a couple of years ago, we, had done some of those large things, but not said, okay, we're really committed to 100% all of the stuff that would need to happen for that, for delivering on an exceptional product on those types of things. And then it made it really hard because, we would switch to something else and something else. So now we have, larger commitments that we're saying, hey, we're committed to something large, strategic, that really makes important. That's a big effort. That's really going to move the needle with Adalo and for you all. And then at the same time, we also have smaller initiatives that are ongoing, that we're always, improving. That way, we're constantly delivering improvements to Adalo while also working on larger things that take a long, more focused effort. So having that kind of pairing has been really helpful. Also doing it, those smaller initiatives, now that they're kind of bucketed, we can say, okay, we're really committed to doing this in X amount of weeks. And here is, the body of work that will fit into that, and then staying more firm to our commitments. It's been really helpful for us to kind of move faster, as well as make sure that we're communicating, okay, this is exactly what's going to happen, with this, and, here's what you can expect with it. So what that system then does for you all is it definitely lets us get more clear about what we think, the smaller initiatives are in the short term. So we can say we're really committed to that, and that is going to happen shortly. We'll also let you know, hey, we're working on some larger initiatives and this is going to happen. And then it'll also let us know, unfortunately, hey, some of those ideas you have are fantastic, but right now they're not committed in the shorter time frame. So I can't say exactly when those things will be done, but that is, a helpful way to at least be honest and communicative about exactly what's kind of happening. That way, instead of it being well, yeah, we're working on all of this stuff, we're a little more clear about our commitments and when things will get done. And that's also helped us kind of move faster and prioritize better.
Yeah, and I thought, as a case study, watching geolocation was really amazing. Geolocation was 15 different products in one, and watching us just come together was really, really empowering to see. So our next big project that we're working on is Webapps. Before I started working with Adalo, I didn't actually even kind of know what a web app is. And now that I actually know what a web app is, I feel it's it makes me see the entire internet differently. And, what we're building, it's almost I feel like a web app is the next generation of what the web is about, and we can build for it and how people use the internet. Could you share a bit about why we chose web app for our next big project and maybe dive into this?
When Adalo first got started, we were certainly, and have kind of been in our roots, very mobile focused. I think, though, we had always set our sights on, we think the best experience is to be truly cross-platform. That would mean you would create one app and it would work on iOS and in the Apple App Store, on Android, and the Google Play Store, as well as across the web, on any screen sizes that you're on. That way, wherever your users are and whatever use case they might have, you might have some users that, want to download the app, and other users that maybe just want to see it on the web, or maybe you have different apps for different purposes that are connected together across all of those things. We do think that is the kind of best experience, where it's it's going to be wherever it needs to be for whatever use case it has. So that was our original vision from the beginning of you just make one app, it works across all of them. We definitely, like I was saying, started more mobile first. And that felt, like the right choice for us, and it's been really helpful. And that will still continue to be, kind of our bread and butter. But what we've seen now is more and more people wanting to make apps for the web as well. And I think this will open up a ton more possibilities of what's possible. It'll certainly also help a lot of our, freelancers and agencies that work hard building for other people will now have, an additional offering that they can say, hey, I can just make you a native app, or I can make you a web app and across both things and do all of that stuff. So it'll certainly offer another package for them as well. It certainly opens up to also being, this is an app for external purposes. It's an app for internal. This is an internal external app. All the possibilities is, kind of what we imagine here. So we think the use cases, are going to be incredible as soon as we kind of crack open the web app possibility. We've just kind of focus on, actually making, we've never really focused on making web apps an incredible experience like we have on the mobile side. And we think it's time to, spend some energy there, really trying to improve a lot of the stuff so that we can, kind of shout out from the rooftops that, Adalo is truly cross-platform.
So when we're actually talking to Adalo makers, what sort of expectations can they have of things that they're going to be seeing changing?
So there's certainly a lot of things that, we're considering right now. Responsive layouts or adaptive layouts are really important, right? So if you're on desktop and, you might have this item fixed to the left side of things and you want it to grow and shrink in a certain way, or you might have something that you want centered to grow and shrink in a certain way, or you might have something that you want fixed. So how do those things change for different screen sizes is really important. Specifically for things like lists, you might want to have just one column on mobile, and then as it gets bigger, 2 columns, 3 columns, on the different screen sizes. How do we have you be able to set those things up? Showing and hiding different components on different screen sizes. Web apps normally have a left kind of menu that's open and over there as a drawer, and then, that is hidden on mobile as there's not enough space, and into the fun little hamburger menu. I know that maybe is changing a little bit recently, but those types of things, showing and hiding different things. Also, you might want different styles on different screen sizes. Maybe that text needs to be larger or bigger on different things. And then all of that stuff I just talked about, layouts, columns, hiding, showing, styles, all of that, you have to actually be able to design that in the editor. So our designer itself is going to have to change that you can easily see what you're doing on different screen sizes. So that's a lot about the design side of things, but also not just on that. We have to focus on web app publishing is certainly an important thing. Right now when you publish to a native device, there's kind of a built-in versioning control system where you have to actually submit it to Google Play, or you have to submit it to TestFlight, and then it'll go up to the app stores. And then, that code is on people's devices. So it's a little bit of a built-in kind of like live version versus dev version. For web apps, we're going to have to improve that so that, you can have a version you're working on in the designer, and then, a live web app that's published. And then, again, we're probably going to need to also focus a lot on different web components. So, we have a lot of components today, but there are certainly nav bars and things like that will need to get designed specifically for that. And then finally, linking and SEO is certainly a big thing. I know deep linking is really important to everybody, as well as just links in general, so that, your app has more of a clean, URL structure, and then all of the stuff that would come with SEO and those types of things. So those are certainly all of the huge body of work that we are kind of considering for all of this stuff.
So it's exciting to hear so many things happening. But I know when we first started talking about this internal to Adalo, there's a couple of things that I found a little bit confusing that I think is useful for a deep dive. So one of them is for sure about the actual idea of what does building responsive layout design look like? How is that actually going to work from a practical maker
certainly
perspective?
Something that we're trying to make sure we put kind of our Adalo magic on. We wanted to still be easy and accessible to everybody and really, really simple. That's been our bread and butter, but still you have to make it work, right? So today, if you have a desktop web app, it probably looks good on desktop, but if you, have a lot of, kind of columns in that, and you send that link to, somebody. Right now, today, we have a lot of kind of like magical things of shrinking and growing and that sort of stuff. And it works great for going from maybe a larger desktop to a smaller laptop and those things. It's growing and shrinking nicely. But then sometimes, things are totally overlapped when it gets down to mobile. And that's certainly what we're talking about, where our layout constraints there kind of, they break down a little bit, if you will. So how can we expose some of that, those magical rules that we're trying to set as default and let you all, change them in certain circumstances? We're certainly going in with this in the mindset of, hey, we would love it if, a lot of our stuff works by default. And then there are just certain cases where you kind of have to go in and click on a section to see, okay, hey, I'm dragging the screen in the editor to see, okay, this is what it's looking on on the different sizes. And okay, here's where I just got to change this one thing. And maybe I'm showing and hiding certain things completely so that, it's not part of it. So that's definitely, kind of all what it entails for layout constraints. We certainly would love it if a lot of that stuff just works automatically and you don't have to, mess with it as much. And there are certainly situations where you're like, okay, I want to go in and I just need to make a couple of edits on this screen, and then I'm back to just kind of designing my app.
Yeah, I think that makes like a lot of sense. Like I know myself as an Adalo maker, like sometimes things almost, to use your words, work automagically.
Yeah.
But when
so
they don't,
we just
it's
need
great
a
to have
little bit of a way
power
for you in
over
those
that.
certain circumstances. Okay, let me just tweak this one thing. Okay, back to it. So we certainly don't want to add so much amount of work where now it's like, okay, well, I have to set that up on, and like there's no default on all the different screen sizes, and it's going to take me so much amount of time. So we're always trying to balance, okay, keeping it simple, but also still having it customizable and powerful enough for you to, really make a professional looking, responsive or adaptive app.
So you mentioned earlier that Adalo kind of automatically does version control for Android and iOS with how we publish. Are we going to be having something similar to this, like versioning control for web apps?
We did launch design versions, and it's kind of important to note, we see there's going to be two kinds of versioning in the future, right? There's design version where, hey, I'm in the designer, I'm making changes, I want to make sure it's saved. Maybe I have some teammates that are also making some changes, or I want to test out this one thing and change it. So what we have today are design versions, and that's really helpful for you to take notes and how well it saves stuff saved. But there's also another concept where you actually want a live, kind of state of your app or version of your app, and then you want, an unpublished version, if you will, where you're kind of working on it on the sides and it's not going live right away. So it's a different flavor of publishing. There are buttons today to click to publish and build your, Android, or click to publish and it builds your iOS to test flight. So those do today have buttons that you have that are clicks. So we imagine another, kind of button that you can, publish to the web, and then it'll go up there, and that'll be the, code that is live on your site. And then the designer will have what you're working on over there, and you'll have to, publish to update those things. Very similar to other types of website builders out there today. We imagine a similar type of thing.
Thank you. I know as we move to web, there are certain things that are possible on web that aren't possible on apps. Things like search engine optimization, SEO, and deep linking. Are these things that we're going to be looking to incorporate into Adalo web apps?
Incorporate these things. There's also deep linking is probably also important. I know for some native apps as well. So that's kind of exciting. That'll work for both, but certainly will become even more important for web apps. And as you're sending those things today, and you can send web app URLs today, kind of at a high level, but yes, that deep linking thing, that's definitely a request we get a lot, and something that, we'll be focused on for this project, as well as, just setting more friendly link URLs and SEO and stuff like that is certainly going to be important. I do know that, our first thought is the importance of kind of starting with constraints and visibility and just making it at least possible for you to like have something that works on different screen sizes and doesn't look completely broken is, what we are really kind of focus on it first. We always like to start with some of the more technically challenging things as well. So starting with that is kind of where our heads are at, just a little bit of timeline of some of those things.
And do you want to speak any more on like general rollout and what users can kind of be expecting to see?
One thing we'd love to do with these kind of larger projects, that we're really committed to for a more extended period of time is how can we be more consistently delivering on things throughout the entire kind of life cycle of that project. So we'll get more into, exactly how that will work. Our director of product has been posting some things in the forum about some of that. He'll certainly talk more about the exact specifics of the beta as we start to roll out. But in terms of where our general heads are at, we'd love to have kind of an ongoing beta where people can join in and we're constantly updating it and delivering it. And they're always able to you all are able to play around and give us feedback of those types of things. I do know this is, particularly tricky. We don't want to make changes that will impact any of your current apps today in a way that maybe we didn't have as intended as we're changing some of these things. So, we imagine there's probably another option for, you to join in and just create those types of apps separately, and you're playing around and doing those things. And as we get features that work and we feel good about them, then we can add them back into the, kind of overall system to Adalo at certain points. So, but we certainly wouldn't want to, roll out any changes that would, kind of impact any of the current things that you all have. Certainly building some sort of new kind of fluid engine like this is, we just want to make sure that we're not ruining your current app. That would certainly not be good. So it will be a little more kind of like that, where you'll kind of join a beta for those types of things as we continue to roll stuff out, and you guys can give us feedback and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a little bit about how we think that will work.
So just to reinforce that final point, if I want to continue using Adalo as I currently am, I will like the current editors not changing. This will be like an additional functionality.
Certainly, at least at the beginning, right? As we're kind of working on it, that way you all can be a part of the changes there. And again, it's because we imagine a new, like what I opened up at the beginning while we were choosing web apps. We imagine a new world where you're just making one app and it works across all of those places. Today you kind of have to choose, do you want to make a native app or do you want to make a desktop web app? We in the future just imagine, hey, I want to make an app, and you can choose to put it in different places. So that will be kind of the larger overall goal that we'll be trying to switch towards here moving forward.
Thank you. So now, after we're talking about what is going to be our next big rock working on web apps, there's some things that we're just always working to improve. And I think an important point to reinforce is that, continuous improvement of the platform is something that we're always working on. And big pieces of this are, of course, performance, which, we know it's every day the performance needs to get a little bit better. And also in database and things. Yeah. So it'd be great to just hit on a couple of questions on both these topics. Maybe we can do database and integrations first. So a question that is quite common is there any plans to finish the beta for external authentication?
This is one of those things that I kind of mentioned before where, we want to get better about what type of commitments we're making and those types of things. So we are going to shift gears here a little bit. We'd like to approach this a little more. We think a better approach to this would be more of a, one at a time type of external authentication as opposed to like a one size fits all type of model. So we are currently looking at what are the most important, basically places where you'd want external users to live, and you would use that as essentially your entire database backend operations. So if you all have ideas for what is the most important one or ones to kind of start with, is that Firebase, Xano, Superbase? Like what are the most important, where your everything, like all of the users' information would live there. And then, we'd like to go more of a one at a time type of approach. We think that'll build a way to make those external users basically work better together, faster, setup would be easier, and a lot of things we can tailor if we're just doing a one at a time type of approach. So if you all have any thoughts, would love, drop your comments here about which specific external user authentication system you would like us to really go all in on first. Would be incredible. So yeah, let me know there.
Well, as a Xano user myself, it would probably save me time. But I'll, actually, hearing you say some of these, I'm not even familiar. I've got to go do my own research.
So yeah, like I said, we think that's a much better approach. I know, I apologize for that project, kind of hanging out there has not been good, and that's one of the big impetuses for that whole kind of product cycle, roadmap, different philosophy now we have is like, hey, what are we really committed to and what time periods? And how can we make it work like that? And say like, yep, we're committed to this specific thing at this time instead of a very open-ended thing. And if it is going to be a big, huge open-ended thing like web apps, then we're saying, yep, we're committed to that for a really long time. So, I think which specific external users authentication system you would like for us to roll out first would be really helpful to move that project.
Thank you. Now, a common question too is just like on improvements to the database module, database structuring within Adalo editor itself. Many people are using it to other platforms because they, are specialized on database backends and things. But what can we actually kind of like be seeing in terms of like the roadmap for the improving the Adalo database itself? At
a general level, maybe this gets a little bit into performance. So, well, I know we're going to touch on that in a little bit. So, definitely making sure all of our internal collections and collections API, all that kind of stuff is better optimized. We'll get, like I said, we'll get into a little bit more of that into the performance technical section of this. But certainly there are other things, we'll want to add in the future, different options, like you kind of had mentioned, better ways to search, update things inside of that will certainly come with time. But that's also why we're interested in, hey, how can we have, some better, more direct integrations with some tools that maybe already have those things for some of the advanced makers out there or advanced use cases. There's different use cases. There's a ton of different use cases for an Adalo. There's times where, this thing is really simple and it's, maybe for a smaller community or for a specific individual business, and they're totally happy, and it wouldn't make sense to have something, as complicated setup as integrating with one of those other types of systems. And then there are times where, you need it to be a little more complicated and stuff like that. So we're definitely trying to, balance those things, and we think that some of those other systems have already great ways to do some of those things, which is why you all, want to integrate with them. So it'll certainly come with time, but also having more direct integration with some of those systems will definitely help that out as well.